What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin. We're going to go over the short-term kind of outlooks for Bitcoin, what to expect in the coming days, possibly even the coming weeks, and we'll go over a kind of more midterm, long-term outlook for what happens when we do break out of this consolidation phase that we've been trapped in, spending time in, however you want to look at it, since March. If that sounds good to you, stay tuned. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and hit that like button too. It helps the channel grow. Let's get going. So we're looking at this thing on a daily basis. BTC USD on TradingView here. This is the all-time history index chart. If we're looking at the daily RSI, it's very, very, very neutral. I wouldn't say it's bullish or bearish, right? It's finding support off the 40, rejecting the 60 area. You got a little bit into it, but out. Getting overbought, getting oversold beforehand. It's very neutral, and as is the price. So not getting a lot from it there. I would expect that we go down a little bit more just based off of this and based off the price. I would expect to go a little bit more to the downside, but that doesn't mean we have to. From a low point to a relative high point here, we are finding support on the 382 right now from this low to this high. But we have found resistance on the 236 as well. So right now, I guess I must say, this actually is a nice look, closing below your 382 like that with some pretty decent volume, and then you've come right back up. It's kind of a nice look. It's nice to see, but I'm not optimistic. I do feel like, maybe we interact with this 236 again, this like $61,000 price area, a little bit below 61K, and then we come back down. But I would think that this next interaction with this yellow line, the next interaction we have with about 58,500, 58,400, that zone, will result in a break and some continuation to the downside that we haven't seen at least over the past few days or so, right? So where will that take us? Ultimately, I would think that we would make a move down to the 618, which is at about 54.7K, 54.7. The 69 is at 53.6, so somewhere between there is kind of what I would expect. You're at 59.26 thousand right now. Let me see, hold on. Delete these white lines. So many white lines. Okay, we'll keep it there for now. From the current price of about $59,260, that would be a 7.6% drop to potentially a 9.4% drop. So not even a 10% drop is what I would expect out of Bitcoin here. It could go a little bit lower. I have been seeing across the space and watch it happen exactly like this, where it breaks through the 618 on the first attempt, goes right down to the 786, tips it, and then finds support, and then that's the low. I've been seeing that a lot across the crypto space lately, so it wouldn't be too crazy. It wouldn't be too out of hand to go all the way down to that 52.2K area and find some nice support. If we were to see a move like that, I would think it'd be very swift. It would come in the form kind of like this low did here, where you've got a very big wick. And right, if you understand how candlesticks work, if you don't, I'll just explain it real quick. The wick itself is where the price was before the day closed. The body of the candle on a red day, because it's a red day, means it went down. The body of the candle is where it opened to where it closed. The wicks are where it went in between the closing periods. So a day where you see something like that, right, where it reaches for this 786 zone, but you close above the 618, or you reach for the 786 and you close at least like $1,000 or $2,000 higher, something like that. Like you prod it and there's a sizable wick. That's kind of what I would expect. I would expect that it happens very fast. That doesn't mean that's going to happen today. I'm going to try and delete all these little things. That doesn't mean that it has to happen today, but when it does happen, it'll probably take course. It will take place over the course of 2 to 3 days. So if it were today, maybe we see an initial move down to there, and the following day we go there, something like that, close in this area, and then start moving up. I don't know. But that's kind of my expectation. I think we're going to get a little bit of a drop down to 54.7K, 52.2K, somewhere in that zone. We don't have to hit the 786 again. I'm only outlining that or addressing that as a possibility because it's something I've seen. And generally speaking, there's I don't know how to describe it. Think of it as like contagious behavior across the charts. Whenever it comes to crypto, when certain cryptos, it might not be the same crypto as Bitcoin, but when you're seeing things across the market of cryptocurrency that are following similar behavioral patterns whenever it comes to Fibonacci scales or ratios, whatever the fib is it a retracement scale? Yeah, whatever. It can reflect in other coins. So this is just something, again, basing off of the 786. That's just something I've seen over the past like month or so. I feel like I've seen a lot of like prods, whether it's resistance or support, just down to the 786 and having a quick reaction afterwards. But it's not what I would normally call for. Normally I would call for exactly what I called for at first, which is between the 618 and 69. But again, just making people aware of that. So just to end it, just to surmise it without being further confusing, 54.7K to 52.2K with a stronger emphasis on 54.7 to 53.6, with a stronger emphasis on that, but just noteworthy mention of 52.2K is what I would expect to happen. And that could take place over the coming days. It might take place, over the coming week and a half or so, but I would expect soon. Not looking like the end of the month of August, right? This is the last day here, but it's probably in the first like week or two of September. I would expect we're resolved with this low. It'll be a higher low and get us set up to move higher. I would think that it'd be like a quick little move down, right? Something like that. Getting ready to move higher and break out of this broadening wedge that we're in, which you could call it a broadening wedge. It could be a cup and handle. It's very possible it's a cup and handle. If you take it out of log and you look at it on a linear scale, I can just feel my voice going away. It really does look pretty textbook, like a cup with handle pattern. It's very perfect. So whenever it comes to breaking out of this, whatever you want to call it, consolidation phase, handle, broadening wedge, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to breaking out of this, I would expect that the move is going to be more significant than anything that we've seen in the past 6 months. Obviously, it'd be more significant, something more comparable to what we saw on the way up here in February or maybe October, right? A month where Bitcoin closes 30% or more to the upside, something like that. That could be September. That really could be September, or September going into October, right? Certainly throughout the rest of this year, like from here on out through the rest of the year, I think Bitcoin's going to be very bullish. But if we take the high, currently the all-time high, to the low of this consolidation phase, where we are, actually we broke up through the 618 and then closed right back down, a little bit of a rejection week to week. What's it look like on the daily? That's nice, but it wasn't sustained. Damn, we didn't get any follow through. So we're finding support at the 0.5382 area. Oh man, I mean, if we hold 57.4K, then I'm wrong. We could hold 57.4, but I don't know if we will. I don't know how well respected this fib is. Anyways, not the point. What I'm trying to get to here is the projected targets for when you break out of the broadening wedge, consolidation phase, cup and handle, whatever you want to call it. The immediate targets based on the fib here, fib extensions, would be 82.3 thousand to 94.7 thousand, something like that. We absolutely could, in situations such as these where you've got very strong movements coming into it and it's a very tight consolidation phase, right? Essentially, you've been moving sideways for months, right? Month after month, with a downward tilt to it. Absolutely there is, right? Lower highs and lower lows, but more or less you've been moving sideways, right? We were at this same price back here in April, and we got really close to it back in March, even whenever we found our highs. So and we didn't reside there. We're residing there now, but that's beside the point. It's been moving sideways. When you get these high and tight consolidation phases, it's more common than not common. More common than not. I don't know how to phrase it properly. To see deeper extensions from the 1886 to the 2618, something in the realm of $105,000 to $142,000. And I would expect that these targets, wherever they are, right? And this is the first zone that we'll look at. Whether we stop here or we continue, I'm sure we'll find turbulence along the way, right? We'll probably find support and resistance in this area on our path to probably over $100,000, 100 to 140, let's just say 100 to 140K with a good emphasis on that 120K area. I would think that that's our next high, and that could come in by the end of this year. If not by the end of the year of 2024, very early in Q1 of 2025 is what I would expect. And now, when I say this is the next high, I simply mean that it is the next high. It's not the cycle high. At least I don't expect it to be the cycle high. I'm expecting this next run, whenever it breaks, it will send us up to these areas potentially, at a minimum these areas, but I just couldn't see us consolidating all this time. If we're only here by the end of the year, you guys, I think that there's something wrong with Bitcoin, right? Like if we're at 94K and it's the very end of the year, and throughout January we move up to 123K, okay, I guess it's okay, that's fine. But I would much more expect this 105,000 to 123.4 thousand, maybe even $142,000 price range. That's what I'm expecting. And again, the next high, not the cycle high. I think the cycle will persist through 2025. This is what I'm calling for by, like, let's just say mid Q1. So by the middle of February, this is what I would be calling for, right? This zone up here, somewhere in this zone, okay? And I'm thinking more likely by the end of this year, sometime in like late November, or probably more likely in December. But it could be, you know, Q1, really early on Q1 2025 that we hit this area. After that, we'll probably go through a multi-month consolidation phase, right, as we've been doing right now. And then for the end, or the middle/end of 2025, I would expect that we continue rallying and moving up higher, right? Who knows what it's going to look like, but it could be something like this. And I certainly would expect that we're going to see prices above 300K by the end of this cycle. I'm expecting 400 to 500K personally, but time will tell if that happens. I'm getting those numbers from here, and I'm going down a rabbit hole I didn't mean to go down, but let's just finish the thought. The 2272 is at 462K. So that's kind of the projected target that I have personally. At least 260 is what I'm thinking. But based off of historical results, the 272 is a pretty common area to hit. At a minimum, we've hit the 1618 every time, and that's 173,000. My minimum expected target would just be that next one above, which is about 260. A lot of people are calling for this cycle to top off in this like 130 to 170 zone, right? 150. I hear it 150K a lot. And that could be the case, right? Time will tell. But if that's the case, I would expect that we're probably not even above $100,000 by the end of this year. That would be that'd be the only thing that makes sense to me. And there's just nothing about this chart that would suggest anything but there's nothing about Bitcoin's history that would suggest anything but this price or higher. And that or higher is the more common thing to do, right? I'm going to end the video here. I've gone way off the rails, guys, right? I feel like I gave you a good short-term outlook. I blabbered on a little bit about the midterm, and then now we're droning on with the long-term. But from an all-time high to a low perspective, right? First cycle high to first bear cycle low. Went up to your 2272 there. Next cycle high was this month here to this low. Cycle high to cycle low, 2272 there, right? Both times you went a little bit through it. The next one, cycle high to cycle low. You only went to your 1618, but you interacted with it twice. Based off of this behavior, right? I'm just assuming the same pattern to happen, right? Something between here and here by the end of the cycle. And likely, I'm genuinely fixated on this target, right? As time goes on, as we get closer to this time frame toward the end of 2025, if we're not in these areas, of course things can change, but as of now, this is a completely appropriate destination and time frame that we have, right? I've got it established that this would probably come in around October of 2025. That's what I've been saying for over a year now, okay? Somewhere around here. If we take the last cycle, we just measure this phase right here, the last phase of the last cycle, right? This is the last. Obviously, you pushed higher, went to new all-time highs here, but this is our last phase of the last cycle. The strongest part of the cycle, any bull cycle, is always the end. Not the beginning. The beginning's nice. The end is spectacular. The beginning's nice, but the strongest moves are at the end, absolutely. So and you can find that not just in Bitcoin, but most charts that exist. It's often the end of a cycle that finishes with a bang, generally. Okay, so if we take last cycle, which I believe was a weak cycle, and I think we will see a stronger cycle this cycle overall. Last cycle's bang, right? Like its finale, and we put it here, assuming that this next move could be the finale, or maybe it's more what I think, which is going to be it's going to be an in between to the finale, right? We check off, we probably stop somewhere along the way, and then consolidate for months as we did here. sometime early next year, and then going into the middle toward the end of next year, we'll start to run up again. But at any rate, comparing it to this, taking it from the low of that move to the high of that move, I feel like it's measured pretty appropriately, right? Very accurately, actually. If we put that right there at this month's low, that same move, which we saw before in a very weak rally with very questionable economic conditions around the globe, if we saw that move then, expecting the same move here or something greater or something similar to it, maybe it sees the same growth, but it takes more time, whatever. I'm expecting a stronger cycle, so I would go with the or higher kind of expectation, not the or lower expectation, but higher or lower, whatever, just an idea. This would put us at $300,000 by February. So $300,000 by February, I mean, with again the end of last cycle, just that part, not the low to the high, just the significant part of which we're about to get into. Whether it's this next phase up, which I don't think it is, it'll probably be something like this, and then we consolidate, and then the next phase up is our spectacular move up, or whatever it is. That's just kind of the expectation. So from a high point to a low point here, something up there, probably in this box, in that time frame and everything. That's kind of the expectation. And then if we zoom out, I know it feels like the ravings of a madman. At least to me, it feels like I'm just kind of raving on, but I'm like, whatever, I'm going to let it happen. If we zoom out, it really, it doesn't seem that far-fetched at all, honestly. Maybe the upper parts of it do. I'm not drawing a perfect curve here by any means, right? But it seems like a logical area, even if it's not that high. Something above 200,000 nonetheless. 200 and 260 is the minimum that I would give personally. It seems pretty doable, just on the perspective of the trajectory of the chart on its own, let alone taking the measurements of each cycle high to low on the fib extensions, right? Will this be the first cycle? Will this be the first cycle that we don't see the 1618? I don't know. I don't think so. Right? I would expect that we at least hit this, but I'm so confident in that my genuine minimum outlook is 260, that 1886. Because I think last cycle was a fluke. I really do think that this double top is not going to happen this time, so I think we are going to pierce the veil. Maybe we find a little bit of resistance at the 1618, something like that, and then we continue to move higher, but I don't know. I'm going to stop talking. I feel like I've rambled on enough, so with that, I leave you. If you like the video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Yeah, I feel like I normally keep it more concise and direct as to what I want to say, but this time I just kind of let it go, so I don't know. With that, I leave you. Take care. Bye-bye.